Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mental Wellness Sanctuary with your host. I am Coach Francis McMiller, licensed mental health therapist here in Jacksonville, Florida, you guys. So I'm going to give you just a moment or so to pop on. I have just a little tidbit of information I actually wanted to share today. This may not flow like my typical lives because this is just something that I wanted to pick you guys' brain on just to get you to think about something that I think is very, very important as you continue to grow, mature, um, just go through life. I think it's something that we definitely need to consider a little bit more. So I hope you guys have had a blessed week so far. We are in April, guys, and so I am in great expectation this month. Well, I've been in great expectation since last month, but I am definitely in great expectation this month of God doing some amazing things. I can just feel it, y'all. So I'm excited. I have been moving and shaking. I hope, like most of you guys have been doing. I have noticed a lot of movement around me, just when it comes to everything and everybody. So I know if you guys have been anything like me, it has been rip, run, zip, go, no, all gas, no brakes is basically how I can put it. So again, I'll give you guys just a moment to pop on. I know I have been trying to find a good day to do my workshop, but it has just been these next few weeks and these next few weeks are just slam packed. There is something happening just about every weekend that I am thinking of. So at this present time, I'm just like, I gotta figure out a time. Yeah, I gotta figure out a date. So I have not forgotten y'all. I promise. I'm just trying to find something where I don't have to shift or cancel or reschedule for it. So do bear with me. I am definitely looking for that thing. However, um, without further ado, again, welcome to the Mental Wellness Sanctuary with me, your host, Coach Francis. Tonight, I am going to be talking to you guys very briefly about sacrificing. Sacrificing, guys. I'm going to be talking to you about sacrificing. One of the things that is super important for us to understand as we go through life, there is not an area in our lives where we will not have to sacrifice something, okay? Um, and I'm going to break this down. Um, Not super deep because I don't want to give you guys everything in terms of like how everything plays out, how it works. But I do want you to think about there's a sacrifice for everything that we do. We have spiritual sacrifices. Sacrifices are like, the things that we have to do, the things we have to shift, the things we have to give up. Whenever we're trying to get to a higher purpose or a greater calling in our lives, one of the things that we have to do is make certain sacrifices. I can be transparent with you guys and share with you just a little bit about some of what that looks like when it comes to my own personal walk with God. Um, for those of you that know me, I'm always the negotiator of some sort. I have always been that way. I try to negotiate my way into something or out of something if I could do it. And so when it came to certain areas of life, at various times, I had to make various sacrifices. There were times where I couldn't do what everybody else was doing and still is. There are times where I have to be in certain places or I have to be up in prayer, I have to be up doing certain things. It's a sacrifice that I have to make in order to get to a higher purpose that I understand God is trying to call me to. And so spiritually, again, I may not be able to do some of the same things that everybody else does. I was making this joke with one of my friends the other day, and she was laughing at me because she said for as long as she could remember, I've always been that person that could never really get away with things. I would always be found out, caught, whatever. So just saying, I've always been that person that has had to make a certain sacrifice in a particular area. So sacrifice spiritually. Personally, sometimes we have to make sacrifices when it comes to our children, when it comes to our families, when it comes to other areas of life. Sometimes, even when it comes to taking care of ourselves, we have to make certain sacrifices um, in order for us to get to this place where we need to be. And even those of us that are even professionally, whether you are an entrepreneur or if you are somebody that just happens to be in a particular rank or whatever it is at your job that you do, more than likely there are certain sacrifices that we have to make sometimes, whether it's for the team, whether it's for the business, whether it's late nights and early mornings, coming in when people call out, whatever that might be, there's always a sacrifice that has to be made in terms of us being successful or not. And so, one of the things that came up with me personally when I was going back and forth trying to negotiate with the Lord about a couple of things, He was talking to me about my willingness and the willingness for us to be willing to make certain sacrifices. So, what I mean by that is that sometimes we can be aware of the sacrifice that we need to make. Like it's definitely been presented to us either through direct instructions through God or whatever the case may be. And He has given us this sacrifice that we have to make. And so He was challenging me about my willingness to make certain sacrifices. And He was challenging me because my unwillingness to make certain sacrifices or to move quicker on those sacrifices was directly connected to other things that He wanted to highlight to me that it was connected to. So some of that unwillingness to make those sacrifices were connected to certain fears, right? They were connected to um if I do this and I don't succeed at it, then I fail. It may have been tied to a fear of failure of some sort. Or on the flip side, it could be a fear of success. Like, oh, if I'm successful at this, then how am I going to be able to do this? How am I going to be able to handle it or manage it? Um, he also highlighted to me that my slowfulness or my negotiation with the sacrifice also came from a direct lack of trust and faith in certain areas, meaning I may have felt like I really trusted him in that area. And then to come out and find out that if I did, then my willingness or that move to doing that sacrificial thing would have just come automatically for the most part. And I would have gone ahead and did it. However, he was just highlighting those things to me so that way I can make changes accordingly for my next season. So I wanted to ask you guys, when it comes to certain sacrifices that you will have to make, um, what are your willingness, your levels of willingness to make those sacrifices? Um, because your willingness to make the sacrifices is just directly connected to other things. And for me, I want you to think about what it's directly connected to, because those are things that you directly need to work on. So when I'm working with my clients, for instance, whether it's coaching or counseling or consulting, I'm talking to them about their willingness to make a certain sacrifice. And they'll tell me, well, that's a lot. What is, you're asking a lot. And I'm like, well, it's for a higher purpose, right? Whether the higher purpose is for you to be, if we're talking professionally, for you to be an entrepreneur. Okay, well, what sacrifices are you willing to make now in order for you to be able to get to this place of higher purpose that you desire? The same thing goes for how, let's say for instance, I'm in a coaching or a counseling session, and after I ask them about their levels of willingness or their what they're willing to sacrifice, mind you, I don't set what you should sacrifice. I just help you understand your willingness to sacrifice those things. If you were a coaching client of mine coming to me about, let's say, your childcare business, and you say, I want to start a childcare business and I would like to um, work for the, how can I put it? I want to start this childcare business, but I don't want to be somebody that is running, ripping and running this, that, and the third, because I've seen or I've been around other people that I have mentored or whatever, and I see how they are impacted. Well, the first thing I'm going to start questioning you about is what are you willing to sacrifice in this season of your life or for several seasons, depending on how that looks. What is your willingness to sacrifice certain things to get to that higher purpose or that place that you desire? Now, when I start asking those kind of questions, then I say, hey, you got to be honest, because this is the only way we're going to be able to fix this or work through this. You got to be honest about it. So it's just an example of what I would ask if you were a coaching or counseling or consulting client of mine, but it's directly connected to your success, or to your success in that thing. Because if you're not willing to make certain sacrifices, then I'm not really sure how far you're going to go. And this is the same thing personally, professionally, and spiritually. Spiritually, we have to be willing to make certain sacrifices if we want to grow in God, if we want to get to our destiny and our purpose. We can't cut corners. We can't try to figure out a way to get around it. We can't skip steps. Like, it's all a part of that process. And I think a lot of us want to skip certain parts of the process, especially the part of the process where we have to sacrifice something. And some of us are still in this place where we operate possibly from a very selfish standpoint. So sometimes when we are stuck in that standpoint, we usually make certain sacrifices, but they're at the expense of other things and other people. So the other question that I have for you is, are you intentional with what you're willing to sacrifice? So if you're a mompreneur, let's say, for instance, you're a mom, you're also a business person, that means that sometimes we have to sacrifice the time that we might want to spend with our children. Or that means, well, if it's really important for you not to ever sacrifice that time for your with your children for your business, then you may have to calculate a sacrifice in another area that doesn't take away from the area that you say, hey, I'm not going to sacrifice this, but I'm willing to sacrifice that. So, are you being intentional about the sacrifices that you're making? Now, keep in mind when it comes to spiritually, right? And the things that God is asking you to sacrifice, He's very strategic and intentional. So, you don't really have to question those sacrifices. You just have to do those and not negotiate like your friend. However, in other areas, though, like I was giving the example, if there are non-negotiable areas that you're not willing to make certain sacrifices for, then you have to be intentional about another area that you're going to make that sacrifice for. So it would do you a justice to know in certain areas of your life where you're willing to make certain sacrifices versus where you're not. That's also another way to be able to be more intentional about your sacrifices, because let's face it, there's not anything in life that's not going to require sacrifice. If you are in relationship, marriage, whatever, you're going to have to sacrifice something for the love of that relationship or whatever. As a business owner, as a mom, as a daughter, sometime, godparent, all these different things, we have to make certain sacrifices, um, in order for us to get to where we're supposed to be, right? And so, the other thing that I just wanted to highlight, and I think I may do a live about this possibly next week because I want to dive a little bit more into it, which is we have to remember, and the reason why I'm pointing out the intentionality of your sacrifices is because every action has a domino effect onto something or someone else. And if we're not mindful, if we're not careful, we will find ourselves creating an adverse or not so good domino on not the right person or not the right things. And so the things that we care about, the things that we cherish, the things that we're supposed to be more intentional about, we will find that that sacrifice negatively impacted the wrong thing or the wrong person in the wrong way. So as you're thinking about your walk, as you are thinking about your life, as you're thinking about the higher purpose of where you're destined to be or where you feel like you're being called to be, I really want you guys to consider your, what it means for you to sacrifice, because some people's meaning of sacrifice might be a little bit different. But basically, for me, it's the offering of something, time, giving up something, whatever, for the good or the purpose of something else. So that's the most basic way I can explain the sacrifice. It's offering or giving up something for something or someone else for a higher purpose or a bigger purpose. Miss Natasha put them in the chat, so thank you so much. The other question is, what are your levels of willingness to make those sacrifices? If you're struggling with making the sacrifice, why are you struggling with that sacrifice? Your willingness to do it. Why are you struggling with that? Is it because of fear? Is it because you really don't have trust and faith? And I'll tell y'all something, when it comes to real trust and faith, a lot of us, when I talk to my clients and I talk to different people, and they're like, oh, yeah, I trust the Lord. I trust what he said. I got faith in what he said he was going to do, until he start asking you to make certain sacrifices or do certain things that's really going to put your trust and your faith to the test. And then you either got to put up or shut up, right? And so you want to examine your unwillingness, or your willingness to make certain sacrifices. Do you really trust the Lord like you say you do? He definitely gonna test you. Don't you worry. He's definitely going to test you on that. And I want you to think about that, because a lot of us will swear up and down we do until it's time. And so he might be highlighting that for you, like he had to highlight that for me in certain circumstances and situation. And he'll, if I go to doubt and I go to negotiate and and his response will be, do you trust me? And I'd be like, yes, okay, fine. No negotiating. But he has to challenge me like that. And I know how he deals with me. So, yes, what is the underlying issue behind your unwillingness to make that sacrifice? And that is something that, if you have a therapist or a coach, that you want to go and have a conversation with them about. It might be something that might be trauma related. It might be something that you really struggle with, and it could directly be something that has definitely have you in this stuck and stagnant place. So I'm highlighting that for you just in case. And it's definitely something you also want to take before the Lord. If you're struggling with fear, if you're struggling with certain things, you want to take that to people that are going to be able to help you through that. Okay. The next thing also is that you want to make sure that you are, wait a minute. Oh, there it is. Sorry, y'all. Making sure that you're calculating it all. Calculate as much as possible. I know we can't know the odds and ends of everything, but being intentional and calculating how this sacrifice is going to domino to other areas of your life. We have to get to this place where we stop making impulsive decisions. And this goes back to another live that I had with you guys, where I talked to you about, who's running the show. Is it big you or little you? Um, your little self might be willing to make certain sacrifices that your big self might not be willing to make. And so just, to calculate that back around, or to just bring it back around, there's a direct connection or a linked connection to all of the lives that I talk to you guys about, because it will show up and it will resonate in how you either do or don't do certain things in your life. Um, and so just make sure you guys are thinking about it. What are you willing to sacrifice for this next season of your life? I just want y'all to think about that. Have you calculated it? Are you intentional about it? And do you understand your unwillingness or willingness to make certain sacrifices? Because we have to move when we're required to move, and we have to be obedient when it's time for us to be obedient. And we have to make those sacrifices when it's time for us to make those sacrifices. So, again, y'all, like I said, this is not going to be like my typical lives. I just really wanted to pick your brainy McBrainy, so that way you can start thinking about this, because it'll be important for wherever you're getting ready to go. Um, for you to really think about these things, because they are coming, they are inevitable. There is no area in life where you're not going to have to make a sacrifice. Um, and I'd hate for you guys to look up and miss opportunities where you can make certain sacrifices that will definitely put you in the position that you desire to be in. But without making certain sacrifices, y'all, a lot of stuff is not going to unfold the way that we desire for it. And most importantly, the way that God desires for it. Because guess what? He does give us freedom of choice. And so if you decide to not do the sacrifice or to not be obedient, that's your choice. However, I'd hate for you to look up and see that you're still in the same place that you were in this time last year, or that you had opportunities to make certain sacrifices or to be in obedience or to move when you know you should move, and then that doesn't occur, and boom, you in the same spot, or you find yourself in repeated cycles, or you find yourself still struggling with certain things, or going back to things that you didn't used to struggle with it as well, guys. So that is really all that I had for you guys on this evening. Take these questions, journal about them. Y'all know I'm an avid journaler. Don't forget that I have and I am open for new clients. So for those of you that are looking for therapy services, if you're in Jacksonville area, my office is now open for in-person as well as virtual sessions. So I'm going to share that with you guys as well. You are able to find me on my website, but you're also able to find me on Psychology Today. I am on Growth Therapy, and I'm also on Headway's platform. I will soon be on a platform called Uplift. So if you are looking for me to be able to help assist you from a counseling standpoint, you are definitely able to find me on those platforms and be able to get an appointment and all of that as well. If you are looking for coaching or consulting, and of course, I like to remind you guys that the coaching is for personal or business. I work with individuals that are trying to get to a particular place, but I can also work with businesses that are looking to incorporate mental health pieces or admin assistance or organization, all these different types of things I am able to bring to you personally to help you if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or just a person that is looking for that coaching piece, or if you are a business owner and you would like somebody to come in and do trainings with your staff in regards to things that are mental health related, or admin related, time management, you name it. I can do a little bit of something on whatever you feel like your team might need at the time. So definitely you are able to consult with me. I don't mind doing a consultation with you to find out how I can be of service to you. The consulting part is if you kind of know what you want, you're just not really sure the direction that you would like to go, and you would just like to consult with me to kind of help you put a map together and you kind of do whatever it is that you need to do on your own without the overseeing of the coaching piece of that. So I am also able to do that for you guys as well. Don't forget, I have my journal out, Manifest. So please, if you're interested in that guided journal about Manifest, it is basically a guide to kind of help you get started with identifying things along the lines of your purpose. Um, some of the things that might be have kind of have you stuck or in a place of stagnation, different things like that, accountability partners, goal setting, all of that stuff is inside of that journal. I also have my mask off, guys. So if you're interested in this book with the mask off, it's embracing self-care from the inside out. As I've mentioned to you guys before, self-care is marvelous in its own right, but we have to be doing our internal work just like we do our external work. And this is a book about how we're able to accomplish that. And then the last thing that I have for you guys, of course, is my Speak Life into Yourself affirmation cards, you guys. So I do have these available as well. This is your Speak Life into Yourself affirmation cards by myself, yours truly, that I have here. So I will bid you guys a farewell for this wonderful Wednesday evening. I hope that you would share this live with someone who you felt like could utilize it. Don't forget that I am on just about all social media platforms. I am on Facebook, of course, YouTube. I am on Clubhouse. I am also on TikTok, y'all. So please like, comment, and share. Anything that you see is on my social medias. I greatly appreciate your support, whether you're watching lives or you're sharing things that I have shared. I appreciate you guys. So have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. And I will see you guys back here next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. All right. Farewell.